Here we are. We are back to a special Wednesday night program of the Safety and the Sportswriter with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe. Here we are on the 8th of December as we head into the last month of the football season. And it just flies by, but it keeps getting better. A lot of stories coming out of this past weekend, a lot of great games. But we're going to start it off with some good news for the Giants that Nate just found out for me. And Nate, go ahead, break it.
Yeah, we got mucho chargeros on the COVID list. I'm not sure. I mean, I thought for sure this would be a game where maybe the Chargers could actually win two in a row because one week they look great and the next week they look horrible. But it looks like leading receiver Keenan Allen is going to be out, testing positive on Monday with the Rona. And second leading receiver Mike Williams, who's tied with Keenan Allen with 7 touchdowns, also on the COVID list. So that's receiver 1A and 1B, basically the only two guys you've got that are serious threats on the offense, both out. And then their veteran leader on the defensive backfield side, Chris Harris Jr., also on the COVID list. So not good for the Chargers at all. They've had a recent run of COVID cases. Linval Joseph is still in protocol. Jerry Tillery, Christian Covington, Drew Tranquil missed 10 days last month. And then Joey Bosa had to sit out 5 days before a negative test allowed him to play last week. So things are looking better for the Giants. However, the Giants have no quarterback.
Jake Fromm. You know I love Jake Fromm's mom, but
yeah. Do you love Jake Fromm though?
No.
Okay.
And this brings us to the as somebody started to say, and I love it now. It's after years of booing him at the end of his career, now everybody's lamenting. Oh, at least Eli showed up every week. Yeah, you're right. This guy, in his 3 years, Daniel Jones has failed to make it through a full year without an injury. When Eli missed one game in his whole career, and that was because they benched him.
Yeah.
After leading him to 2 Super Bowls. So the Giant fans who you wanted to boo Eli, I will say what Bill Parcells said years ago when the Giant fans were booing Phil Simms. Boo him if you want, but you're going to miss him when he's gone. And right now you're missing Eli. Yeah, he wasn't perfect, but no, we never had pretty quarterbacks as Giants. But we've had a couple of winners, Eli and Phil, and they led us to a couple of championships. So we should be happy. But no, we had to be spoiled. So cry all you want, but maybe Jake Fromm can get a little Georgia magic going. But
I'll take that bet. I will take that bet.
I don't. What they're going to have to do is either Saquon Barkley's going to have a flashback to his Penn State days. So that's probably the only chance they have, or your defense is able to come up with some big plays. But I mean, you're playing against Justin Herbert, who's very gifted and very talented. And right now, I think the Giants, kind of figured it out last week that it's kind of over. Whatever chances they had, it's over.
Yeah, so I think you're right. And Daniel Jones is doubtful. Mike Glennon's out. Saquon Barkley's questionable. Galladay, who's always on the injured list, is questionable. Sterling Shepard is questionable. Kadarius Toney's questionable. So even if Jake Fromm is able to throw a pass, who's he going to throw it to?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's over with for the Giants for this year. It's on to next year. I want to see how Judge keeps the team together, if he really has a chance to turn this thing around or deserves it. I mean, I was a big Joe Judge believer, but some of the things I've seen him do this year really turned me off. A lot of the conservativeness of his way of taking the field goal. At some point, Joe, go for it. You know what I mean? Your team's losing right now. You're thought of as a loser. What does it hurt to go for it sometimes? And his clock management, it seems like he's running scared right now. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it seemed like he's another one that wasn't paying close enough attention to that man in New England when he was sitting at his hip. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like the old Nick Saban tree. Like for every 4 apples that falls off, like one of them's good, and the other 3 have worms in them. That's kind of what's been going on with the Belichick tree. You know, Matt Patricia sucks. You know, this guy Judge not doing great.
Josh McDaniel blew up when he had his chance. I mean, Romeo Crennel, Charlie Weiss. I mean, we go on. And that's because, I mean, sometimes you have a guy that's just, like Nick Saban, you pointed out, is such a genius, and he won't let his team down. You know what I mean? He kind of makes up for anything you're lacking. If you're going to make a stupid play, he's not going to let you make a stupid play. Yeah, he's gonna be. I mean, Belichick probably. It was funny. When I was listening to, they had I can't say his name. Talib was on Monday Night Football with the Manning brothers, and they did ask him. They said, you know, does Bill spend a lot of time, you know, just in the offensive meetings or defensive meetings or what? He goes, no matter what you think, Bill Belichick runs the defense in New England. He goes, he may let his offensive guy, you know, talks about his offensive guy about a few things, but he goes, he mainly concentrates on the defense, and he runs that defense up there. So, and that's a guy who played for him. So,
yeah,
you know, it is what it is.
That was pretty evident by Matt Patricia's tenure in Detroit. It looked like he'd never run anything before based on those results. But, you know, before we get into the NFL even deeper, I think it is worth noting that it sounds like old Dabo is going to be trying to see if he can handle what Nick Saban's had to handle this so many years. You know, Dabo's had both of his coordinators by his side, I think since 2011, 2012. Both of them have been there for both the national championships. And, you know, Venables, as we mentioned, was hired to be the head coach at Oklahoma, which the last time we did the show, I think that's exactly what I said. I could be wrong. Yeah. We may have to go back and replay the tape if anybody wants to go to the Safety and the Sportswriter website and click on last week's show. I think that's exactly what I said, but it looks like Tony Elliott is going to be hired at Virginia. And that was announced today. So both of his coordinators are gone, and it's easier said than done. You know, I know Nick has done it, but lots of other guys lose both the dudes that have been with them the whole time. Look how old Edge Orgeron went after Joe Brady and Dave Aranda both left. The wheels fell off in Baton Rouge, and that's the big red stick if you're talking French.
Yeah, true, and you know it is true. I mean, and you know it is hard to replace at any level, especially when you get into the colleges and the pros. I mean, even at the high school level, it's tough when you had long-time guys next gen at sidelines. But, you know, it's surprising they stayed as long as they did. You know what I mean? Because they've been successful for a long period of time, and they've been, you know, those names have been out there. This is the first time. So, you know, they're going to leave the roost eventually. And if he doesn't have people on his staff he's been cultivating, or he doesn't have his eye on some guys out there, who knows? And you know what? The whole thing is, you know who you might look at who just got released by Carolina, Joe Brady.
Yes.
I mean, so Joe Brady was supposed to come. How many offensive coordinators jobs has Sam Darnold ruined?
Oh my God, quite a few. And what I thought was hilarious is, you know, Joe Brady was the hottest coaching name in all of coaching 2 years ago, and not just the NFL. I mean, there was after, I think it was after the first year he was in Carolina, or maybe even before he got to Carolina, there were head coaching jobs that were talking about bringing Joe Brady on board. The Eagles interviewed him. The Chargers interviewed him, and they were talking about hiring him. And now he's gone from darling to diva in a couple of years, thanks to Sammy Darnold. And, you know, I kind of knew that the writing was on the wall 2 weeks ago when the Matt Rule press conference came out, and he's like, you know, we got to help. You know, they were asking about Cam and his inefficiencies at quarterback, and Rule was basically like, well, we got to help him. We've got to make a firm commitment to run the football. The next week they threw it like 49 times. Yeah. And it was like, he's not even listening to his head coach. I'm like, that's going to get you canned.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm not going to defend Joe Brady, but I mean, it doesn't help. They're somewhere down the line, we're going to look back on that Christian McCaffrey contract and go, wow, what a bad mistake, because you pointed out many times he hasn't been healthy since he signed it. And unfortunately, as great as he was his first couple of years, and it's not like he's taking the time off, but he's, you know as well as I do, running backs, it depends on when they start wearing down. And right now it looks like he's wearing down.
Well, and also they overused him. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand they overused Derrick Henry in Tennessee, but he's also 6'4", 248 pounds and can handle anything you throw at him. I know he's hurt now, but that was kind of a freak foot injury. But Christian McCaffrey's not that big. And you give the guy, 22 carries and 15 receptions in the game. That's a lot of hits for anybody.
Exactly. And that doesn't even go in the times that he might have gotten hit doing blitz pickups or anything else he might have been asked to do. So, it's
Right.
and I think he returned kicks for a while too. So, I mean, you got that's a lot of hits. So, we'll see what happens with Joe Brady. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Carolina. That'd be a perfect place for him to go and rejuvenate his career with Dabo. I would think Joe Brady, if I was him, that's where I would look at. Go back there, be on Dabo's staff. You're going to get good recruits in there. You're going to get good quarterbacks to work with. Be an easy way to get yourself back up. And we've seen how guys can, Lane Kiffin, Sarkisian can rejuvenate their careers going to be the coordinator on the right staff. But I want to go back over this past weekend. I got to go crazy because after seeing Monday night's game, which you and I were thrilled to watch, I mean, a defensive battle in the snow and the wind up there in Buffalo, and probably one of the best game coaching jobs I've ever seen Bill Belichick come up with, throwing the ball only 3 times. It only took less than 12 hours for idiots on sports talk radio and on TV. And I'm sorry, we're both going to come off. I'm going to come off like jealous because, I'd love to have a job like they do, and I'm part of it too. But I mean, anybody who couldn't admire what the Patriots did on Monday night, and some idiot, came out and said, Nick Wright on the NFL Network comes out and says, "This is proof that Bill Belichick doesn't trust Mac Jones." I mean, all he did was cut a former MVP and give this kid the starting job, and let him. He didn't pull him against Tampa. He didn't pull him against Dallas. He didn't pull him in any of the games. And right now they're sitting on top of the AFC, but he doesn't trust this kid. Please, how do you prove that?
Yeah, that's the most baseless statement that I've heard in a long time. Let's talk about this here. He cut, like you said, the former MVP right before the season started and handed the keys to the car to a kid that had never started a game before. He's thrown 384 passes. He's completed 70% of them for almost 3,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. So,
only 8 interceptions.
Yeah,
and only 8 interceptions.
I mean, I think he trusts him. I think he trusts them immensely. And this is a team that kind of does what they need to do based on that week.
They did it with Brady. They did it. I mean, how many times did someone like, Kevin and I can fuck, but, a myriad of running backs that they have all of a sudden would get 100 yards one night. They cut them the next day. But meanwhile, Brady threw the ball 15 times, and nobody ever said, "Oh my God, Bill Belichick doesn't trust him."
Yeah, Jonas Gray. Remember, he had like 200 yards in one game, and then he ran for like 150 the week after, and then never really played again. So they ride the hot hand there, but he's trusted this guy ever since training camp, and I don't think there's a rookie quarterback in the league that's trusted more than this kid, and they'll give him more, but Monday night had nothing to do with trust. It had to do with 60-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, they were kicking 30-yard field goals straight ahead, and they were blowing like 20 yards to the right. They were showing the pregame warm-ups where the guys were on the field throwing the ball straight up, and it would land 10 yards behind them. So it had nothing to do with trust. It had to do with wind, dummy.
He went for 2 points on the first touchdown. He went
Yeah.
for 2 points because he
Because
didn't
he knew
trust
that they
field goal.
probably couldn't make the extra point, which was true because there was 2 field goals missed on that end from the same distance.
It was, the key point of this, and I know a lot of people don't like to give it. It's just another example of Belichick is the smarter coach. He just is. When you go against him, he doesn't leave any stone unturned. We've never seen a coach like this before. I know we can't understand it because we don't live our lives like this guy coaches a football game, and he just did a fantastic job. One thing I watched again, I watched the Manning brothers, and I know you and I talked about this. I'll tell you, instead of watching the regular Monday night, tune into the Manning brothers. It's a little corny. They sometimes bring in. I mean, they had to have Joe Buck as their last guest, who was pretty cool. Actually, they had a pretty good time with Joe Buck, but they bring up stuff like it was hysterical when New England was setting up for their last field goal. It was third down. It was going into third down, and Peyton Manning goes, "The only thing they're worried about now, you know what they're asking the kicker on the sideline? Which hash mark do you want to be on?" And they put him on the hash mark, he puts it through. And it came back to bite Buffalo down the other end because you knew Buffalo didn't figure out the same thing, and that's why they missed it. It was hysterical when they bring up stuff like that, and they're funny too. They were picking on Mac Jones not throwing all night long, and Eli was picking on Peyton, going, "How long would it be before you were bitching on the sideline?"
Yeah, I did hear the interview with Eli on Tuesday's edition of the Afternoon Blitz on Sirius XM NFL Radio, where Brett Favre hour was going on, and they had Eli join them, and Eli kind of said that it was helpful that Mac Jones was a rookie. He's like, if that was a veteran quarterback over there, that was not allowed to throw it, that he probably would have gotten very upset and frustrated with not being even allowed to throw it. But he said, being a rookie, you do what the coach tells you when you're a rookie, at least at this point. And, he said that may have helped him in that regard.
Yeah, it probably did, because right now he's just learning. He's absorbing. He's becoming a sponge. And we'll see down the road how it works out. But right now, I mean, the Patriots are looking in good shape. They're knock on wood, hopefully they don't hit some injury bugs, but I mean, their defense is looking great. Their offense is in good shape. And right now you've got their coaching staff thinking ahead better than most. So I think they're on a bye this week too, which is, I don't know if it's good or bad. I mean, I know Belichick will find the upside and the downside of both, but you got to, having some time off for to get a little of the nicks and bruises, a little treatment, maybe a good thing. But right now they're riding a 7-game winning streak. Pretty impressive.
Yes, very impressive. And
impressive.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we said after last year. Oh, you're breaking up there.
I want to get your feelings on that.
Yeah, I was saying last year, that he was probably doing his best coaching job, but I got to be honest, this year looks even better. I mean, winning like this with a rookie quarterback and the decision to get rid of Cam, which everyone questioned the week before the season, it's looking pretty smart now. And the way that he's, drafted all those defensive players, and he got them all a lot of experience last year. And they're just coming around right now. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about coaching, because I've got to ask you your opinion on the game, the Ravens game, the Ravens-Steelers game. Let's be honest. You know me, and you know that I love Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. But he hasn't looked that great the last couple of weeks. Last week, he looked horrible. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I talk him up when he plays well, and I give him all the credit in the world when he does these amazing things. But last week, he was horrible. He threw 4 interceptions. It looked like he didn't know which team he was supposed to throw the ball to. And, they still won, which is amazing in my mind. But I really feel like he's trying to do too much. He's on his 9th running back. Their receivers sucked before the season, and they're all hurt. He's forcing the ball to Mark Andrews. He's just there's too much on his plate, and he's trying to shove it all in his mouth, and it's not working. But that all being said, They come back, and somehow he leads them down the field, and they score a touchdown and get within 1 point, and Harbaugh decides to go for 2. Now, a few weeks ago, the same thing happened.
Right.
And I was very, they went for 2 and made it. I can't remember who they were playing, but it was a primetime game. We all watched it. And he looked at Lamar and said, you want to go for it? And Lamar was like, hell yeah. And they went for it. Well, he did the same thing in this game. And you know what's different about this game? The offense wasn't working. So I thought they were pretty lucky to get down there and tie, get in a position to tie that game. I'm not saying that I'm a better coach than John Harbaugh. Obviously, he's got a great record. He's a tremendous football coach. But I just felt like at that particular moment, you kick the point and take your chances.
I can't help but agree with you more. I think I would tie the game. I don't care if I'm going to overtime. First of all, you're playing against a fading Ben Roethlisberger who had already performed over his head by the standard he's created for himself this year. So it was doubtful that Ben Roethlisberger was going to be able to lead Pittsburgh all the way downfield again. You have the guy right now who's a better quarterback as your quarterback. You got the time on your side. Go to overtime. Yeah. Pittsburgh's defense isn't as strong as it's supposed to be this year. I just think it was a stupid move. I think it was you don't take you take the extra point, you go in overtime. Because I said.
That being said, the play call was perfect. Andrews was wide open and the pressure was kind of there, so it affected the way that he threw it, and the ball sailed on him, and he tipped it and he dropped it. But that's not the point. The point is things weren't going well all game. And it just I felt like they were extremely lucky to get down there and score that touchdown. And that's where you're like, well, thank you, football gods. Kick the point. Let's see what happens in overtime. Because at that point, it's a new game.
You also have I'm sick of hearing about it because they always build this guy up because he never misses, but he doesn't never miss. You're the best field goal kicker in the game right now, or the most competent. So if you're going in overtime, even if all you need is one stop, and the next time you get the ball, field goal, get it past midfield, the guy will kick it and win it for you. So I mean, there was no reason to go for it.
That's an excellent point. Let's say you win the toss, right? You go down and you try and have Lamar lead you to a touchdown and you win the game. Let's say you lose the toss. Your defense played pretty well throughout that game, holding the Steelers to 20 points, 7 of them, which they got right down there at the end. 17 of those points they got in the fourth quarter after the defense was gassed. So, maybe you get one stop and then you, like you said, you got Justin Tucker, and he's the best maybe the best field goal kicker of all time, and you run him out there and you win the game. But this is just I think they just put too much on Lamar. I mean, once again, he's the team's leading passer, he's the team's leading rusher. 8 carries, 55 yards. None of the other running backs, could do that. Even Freeman had 14 carries and couldn't get 55 yards. So I just think he's getting worn out, and I kind of feel bad for Lamar.
Yeah. I mean, put Pat Mahomes on Baltimore and put Lamar on Kansas City right now.
Yeah,
with the weapons they have. I mean, I don't think there'd be a huge difference, but I'll tell you one thing: Pat Mahomes would be a lot more beat up.
Hell yeah! With no running backs and no receivers. I mean, let's talk a little bit about. Just for a second, let's talk about the game against the Steelers. You know who the leading receiver was? Marquise Brown. He had 5 catches for 55 yards. Mark Andrews had 4 catches for 50 yards. So you only have one receiver that has 5 catches or more. And Mark Andrews and Devontae Freeman were your second and third best options. So you don't even have 2 decent wide receivers that you can lean on. Sammy Watkins had that 1 touchdown, but that was kind of an amazing throw and it just kind of stuck in his chest. But I'm not impressed with any of their wideouts. And obviously they're 9 deep in the running back position. So it's not good.
And the other thing is not to throw too many things at Harbaugh here, but you already knew Cincinnati had lost.
Yeah.
So I mean, you beat Pittsburgh, you win that game, and you get another game on Cincinnati. That's a big thing to have. So
right, and you had beat the Browns the week before, and you're playing the Steelers. So the Steelers would have dropped. You'd already beat the Browns the previous week. You're sitting pretty if you win this game. Why not go to overtime and take your chances? I thought that was not a well thought out decision. And after the game, we find out that Marlon Humphrey is now also on injured reserve and out for the season. So you know how many guys that is on the Ravens roster that's on injured reserve just on defense? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 guys, an entire starting roster. 12. 12 guys are on injured reserve from the Ravens defense beginning with training camp. So not good.
Yeah, the minute I saw it, I said that's a bad decision. When they were lining up for it, I go, why not just take the tie right now? You have the momentum, and also I just like I said, Ben Roethlisberger 2017, a little afraid of it. Ben Roethlisberger 2015, more afraid of it. Ben Roethlisberger 2021, he's already getting ready to retire. I don't think he can do it.
No, I wouldn't have. He got lucky to get down there and score that, go-ahead touchdown. So I would have taken my chances with overtime there. And I like John Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach. And honestly, that play almost worked. But that's the whole point. Why leave it up to one play? Leave it up to your team having a shot in the extra period.
All right. I want to bring up – I got a list here I found. And it's the power ratings of the NFL football this right now after this week. And I want to go over a few guys at the top here with you. What do you think of this team? What do you think they're going to what they've got going, and if it's going to continue through the playoffs? Hold on one second. It's ESPN's top power ratings. And it starts out with a team no one's been talking about, even though they've been on top all year long. And that's the Arizona Cardinals. 10-2. Are they the team that can carry it through? Kyler Murray's having a great year. He looks like he's back a little bit healthy now. What do you think about them? Big game on Monday night coming up this week too.
Yeah, they're playing the Rams, so we're going to get to see, what they look like against their division opponent. They beat the Rams the first time they played them in Los Angeles, 37-20. But, this is going to be a different game. The Rams are playing for their lives. They've added Von Miller, OBJ. They look a little different out there. And this is a big game for the Cardinals because if they can win this game, they've got the Lions, the Colts, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks coming up after that. So this is a huge game for them. And I feel like this is going to kind of determine the way this season goes. I know they're 10-2 right now. But for some reason, I don't know if I trust them to take a deep run in the playoffs. I know that they look good and they've been the most consistent team, but I'm not sure I'm ready to just hand them the NFC title yet.
Yeah, and Kingsbury's never been in this position before, even as a college coach. He was Texas Tech. He was an afterthought. He wasn't playing for national championships down there. So not even sure that he can bring it to the table when he needs to. So I agree with you there. Number 2 is Green Bay Packers. Of course, the offense runs on Aaron Rodgers. Defense is playing better. The one guy they bring up here, and I agree with it, is going to be the guy who really could screw the pooch for the Packers. And that's their kicker, Mason Crosby, who this year went from Mr. Automatic to Mr. All Over the Field.
That's a true story, and I can't really pinpoint what's happened. I mean, I haven't seen anything about him on the injury report. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but it all kind of stemmed from that game against the Bengals, if you remember, back several weeks ago, where me and you were talking on the phone actually when that game was going on, and it was like a missed field goal contest.
Yep.
Going through the second half and into overtime. And, I can't really pinpoint what's happened, but he's a liability for them right now. And, kicks that used to be automatic for Crosby now are oh God, what do we do? So the good news is you do have Aaron Rodgers, who converts a lot of the time in the red zone. And hell, if you don't feel comfortable with Mason out there, put the ball in your best player's hands, is my opinion. So I feel good about the Packers. I feel better about them than I do the 10-2 Arizona Cardinals, because like you said, they've been there before, and their schedule sets up pretty nice on the way out. They've got the Bears, then they played at the Ravens, and then they've got the Browns, Vikings, and Lions. So the end of the year schedule for the Packers is set up for them to not only win this division, but to potentially get the 1 seed, home field advantage, and the bye.
I don't know if you'll agree with this analogy, but it's kind of like Mason Crosby's kicking career is going away at Jordan Spieth's golf career. He's got the yips.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really understand what happened to him, but this happens sometimes. It happened with even Vinatieri. If you remember last year with the Colts, he couldn't kick an extra point. And sometimes these guys get the head games going, and it becomes a real struggle for them out there.
Yeah, I can see it. Third, of course, they're giving it to Tampa Bay. I don't know where they come up with this, that Brashad Perriman has to be the player who must step up. As much as he's in the running for MVP, you can't have interception pick sixes like Tom Brady's having this year, especially the one on Sunday, which was a ridiculous pick six, and not be a little bit worried, because his defense has been able to bail him out over the last couple of years when he's had these kind of games. But he's had a few really crappy games. And, he doesn't seem to want to use, or I don't want to say him, the coaching staff and him don't want to develop Leonard Fournette as a runner. Give him 20 carries a game, give him 25 carries, see if he can get 80 to 100 yards and take some pressure off that passing game. So I don't know. It's hard to repeat. It's one of the hardest things to do in sports. And right now, I don't know if I trust Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing, I guess, for Tampa Bay is they're on the bye right now, so they're going to be able to get a lot of their guys that have been banged up in the secondary back, and then they get to play the Bills when they come off the bye, and the Bills, have been struggling and been very inconsistent and very un-Bill-like from what we saw last year. So, we'll see what happens, but if they can come out and beat the Bills on the 12th of December at 4:25 on CBS, the rest of the season is pretty much gravy for them. They play the Saints, who are on their fourth quarterback. They play the Panthers twice, and they play the Jets. So really, if they can beat the Bills, I can see them winning out and potentially battling Green Bay for that first position, or Arizona if they can keep it going.
Yeah, it sounds like it's set up there. They should, but like I said, Tommy got to be back to GOAT rather than the old work meaning of GOAT. So
yeah, but I mean, he hasn't even been playing that great over the last 3 weeks, and they've won every game. So I know they had those hiccups there against the Saints and against Washington where he also played badly, but once they got some of those secondary guys back, they've been able to win kind of in spite of him, and they're getting healthy at the right time, and I think this team is so solid all over the place on offense and defense. I think they can survive a couple interceptions because they can give the other team a short field, and that defense can come out and still get a stop.
Well, as you said, Vita Vea is so important to that defense, and it's been since when it never showed more than when he was injured, and now he's back. It's totally a different defensive world. Fourth, they give to the Patriots. We went. I don't want to go too crazy because we talked about the Patriots already. Might be a little bit quick for the Patriots to be this high. I still worry about their second game against the Bills. I still worry. It's a young team still, but you do have the master, and we'll see what they can do. I just think everybody's right now is salivating and thinking too fast that they'd love to have just for the narrative, just for the story, Tampa Bay against New England in the Super Bowl. I mean, it would be the ratings. Well, they always get ratings, but they would just love the story leading up to it. Right behind New England is the rejuvenated Kansas City Chiefs, who's another team that's kind of, I don't know, they don't seem to have everything together. They've rebounded. They're 8-4. You know, Pat Mahomes and more Pat Mahomes like, but still things like, Hill isn't back to being that explosive receiver. They're not getting those chunk plays anymore. They're having to work for it. And that's something they're not. Mahomes has been better and more patient, but that's not his game.
True, but I just like what I've seen out of their defense over this last, 5-game win streak.
Mm-hmm.
They held the Giants to 17 points. They held the Packers to 7. They held the Raiders to 14. They held the Cowboys to 9. They held the Broncos to 9. I love what I've seen out of Steve Spagnuolo's defense. This is a guy that knows how to coach a Super Bowl winning defense, and I think he's figured out what he needs to do to make that defense help the offense and make this team more complete.
All right, number 6, they got the Ravens. We talked about them a lot, but they've dropped 2 in the rankings from the 4. We went over the Ravens. We know about them. They have the Dallas Cowboys moving up from the 10th spot to number 7, and of course that they bring up is Dak Prescott as the man that must step up. I don't know if I agree with that. I think they got to get that running game back on track.
Yeah, I mean, against the Saints, the running game looked pretty good. Tony Pollard, was held in check for the first, couple of quarters, but they didn't abandon the run. And then, bam, one play, and Tony Pollard goes 60 yards the other way for a touchdown. And that was the longest run for the Cowboys from scrimmage in like 6 years. So that was a big, big play. I think we're going to start seeing – I hate saying this because I love Ezekiel Elliott being that he's a former Buckeye, but I think we're going to see a lot more of the running game start to shift more towards Pollard and away from Ezekiel Elliott, especially with that bad knee.
Yeah, I mean Zeke can maybe be useful if he can play down by the goal line and then short yardage, but yeah, give more of the first and second down goes to Pollard and see what you can come of it.
Yeah, I'd use Zeke on third down, man. He's a great pass protector, and he's a good guy to use on short yardage situations. So I would use Pollard on first, second down, and third down, depending on the yardage situation, and use Zeke as that third down guy.
I totally agree. Team now that we just talked about a little bit earlier, but Buffalo Bills have slipped the spot down to number 8. They're 7-5. And right now, they look like a confused team. It was funny. One thing about Eli and Peyton, and they were talking about it. I didn't get to see it all night. I don't know if you noticed it. You probably would pick up on it more than me. But they were hypercritical about the Bills defense not adjusting to the fact once they knew that the Patriots were running, get the extra defensive back off the field, stop playing nickel most of the time, and bring an extra linebacker in. I don't know if you picked up on it. They were saying it, but I mean, to me, that's just an example of coaching not adjusting.
I honestly didn't think they played that bad. I mean, if that guy hits that field goal, that they missed from 30-something yards, they would have gone ahead and been up 13 to 11. So, I don't know. I didn't think their defense played that bad. I mean, they held the Patriots to 14 points, 3 of which they scored there late. So really 11 points throughout the whole game. And if you take away that one long, what was it, 70-yard run by Damian Harris, this game is completely different. So
yeah, but the only thing is you can't take away what happened.
I understand, but I'm saying that was one run. And besides that, they didn't really give up that much. I thought the defense played pretty well. I thought the Patriots schemed it up well. They blocked well. They got yards when they had to. They did what they needed to do. but I'm not ready to write the Bills off because they lost 14 to 10.
I'm not ready to write them off, but they do look a little confused and a little. Maybe they've lost their swagger. Maybe they've lost their edge. They seem like a different, less confident team than I've seen, coming into this season and in last season. You know what I mean? Maybe their expectations of themselves are starting to get to them. I don't know.
I've seen that at times this year. I've seen that at times, but the other night I didn't see that. I thought they fought hard until the end. I mean, I just thought it was kind of their offensive problems were kind of a victim of the weather because they couldn't throw the ball like they're used to doing it. And that one pass that Josh Allen threw, I don't know if you missed it.
Oh, the beautiful pass on the sideline. You can't throw better than that.
It hit Stephon Diggs right in the arm. He turned like this.
Oh, the touchdown. The touchdown, yeah.
No, the one that he dropped.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The one that would have been touchdown.
Threw it like this. It was 50 yards in. They were going into the wind that time, but he turned like this, and the ball hit him right in the arms and bounced down. And I'm like, if he catches that ball, they win that game.
But not to over accentuate it we'll just take away from this game. Don't even think about this game. But it's something you pointed out at the beginning of this year. And as long as we've been doing this show, when we talk about the Bills, you've talked about this. And it's the lack of a running game. Yep. The lack of a game to take a running game, a competent running game to take the pressure off of Josh Allen. He had the biggest runs of the game, and he had the biggest passes for that offense. If he had a good running back behind him he could depend on, I think especially we talk about Northeast football. This time of year, you got to have a running game. You got to have a defense. And they don't have that running game outside of their quarterback.
That is an excellent point that I can't believe I didn't mention because I've said that for the last 2 or 3 years that I'm just not impressed with Singletary. I'm not that impressed with Zach Moss. None of their running backs are really that good. And the only time they ever get any rushing yards is when their quarterback has to go banging up and down the yards. And then, they tried to bring in Matt Breida, who came in and only carried it, I think, one time against the Patriots, and he fumbled it. So, yeah, I don't understand why they didn't get a running back because that, to me, was the only thing they were missing last year.
Yep, that's the sin. And let's see, top 10. We'll just go. Well, we can go a little bit further here. Top 10. They got you got the Tennessee Titans going down from the number 8 slot. They're the player must pick it up. Of course, they're saying Ryan Tannehill. What do you say?
I don't know about the Titans. They're kind of one of those teams that one week they look good and then the next week they look horrible. And the last 2 games have both been horrible. They lost to the Texans at home 22-13, and it actually was way worse than that as they scored a touchdown late to make it look better. But they got beat up by the Texans, and then the Patriots kicked their ass. So, I don't like what I've seen out of them the last 2 weeks. However, they do get to play the Jaguars when they come back. So they got the bye. They'll be able to get some people healthy, and then they get to play the Jaguars and then the Steelers. So, we'll see what they can do. As long as they win the next 2 games and come out of the bye healthy, they've got a chance. And hopefully, Derrick Henry will be healthy enough to potentially play if they make the playoffs.
Even if he can't do 40 carries a game, at least if he could be in it for 15 or 20, that'd be enough. Number 11, Cincinnati, bad loss for them. Even though, when you look at this game, here's where your analogy with when we were going back and forth about Buffalo and Pittsburgh or the Patriots. That fumble by Mixon, they're sitting there. I think they made the 2-point conversion. Or a penalty called it back, if I have it right. It was 24-22. They made the 2-point conversion, got called back, and then they didn't get it.
Correct.
But they were sitting at 24-22, driving the ball. They had the momentum. Mixon puts the ball on the ground, gets returned. And then from there on out, they don't have the game anymore.
Well, yeah, and it was this game was like a basketball game. It was 24-0, and then the Bengals come roaring back and scored 22 points straight, And then that 2-point conversion kind of set up a thing where then the Chargers scored 17 points straight. So it was kind of a weird back and forth game of runs. And let's be honest, I mean, Joe Burrow, as great as he's been, he's also thrown an NFL leading 14 interceptions. And that's been problematic for the Bengals. I mean, look at this, they're 7-5, which is probably honestly ahead of schedule of where a lot of people thought they'd be right now.
Oh, yeah.
But, you take away some of those 14 interceptions, they could easily have 9 wins.
Well, as they showed last week, I mean, when Joe Mixon's effective, they win, because then it's not all about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow admitted that he was trying to get the ball to Chase too much. He fell in love with those early touchdowns, and it's rookies. I shouldn't say rookie, second year, but I mean, it's really a continuation of his rookie year because they got injured. But he's still at the learning phase, and he doesn't have a great coach on their sideline to probably take him through it. Colts are next. They're moving on up from 13 to 12. Carson Wentz, as they say, is going to be their big step up guy. I'll say he's got.
Oh, way to go out on a limb there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all about Taylor and that defense, and and they've got some tough games coming up on their schedule. So let's see what do you think about these Coltsies?
Yeah, I think we're about to see the end of the Coltsies because they play the Patriots, the Cardinals, and the Raiders 3 weeks in a row, and that's not a great time for them to play those teams. And I think the Patriots will load up on the run and try and make Carson Wentz beat them. And the Cardinals are pretty decent against the run too. So, I think they've overachieved, honestly, after the way they started. What were they? They lost their first, 4 out of their first 5 games. Yeah. I think they were 1-4. So honestly, they've done pretty well to get back into it. But I think the schedule doesn't look good for them coming up.
All right, and then we got the Chargers. Nice win this week, but as you said at the beginning of our broadcast, which Chargers team are you going to get next week? And it's against the Giants with the COVID problems. They probably still can get it through the Giants and Jake Fromm. I mean, I wouldn't think they couldn't get. Justin Herbert should have enough in his arm to get them through that. But beyond that, I mean, can they get on some kind of a roll? And they're still young, both coaching staff and what's on the field.
Yeah, they are young, and I think that's one of the reasons for their inconsistency. They just, they kind of look great one week, and then the next week, not so good. And I think that's partially due to having a lot of young players and also having a first-year coach. And I think that, he's learning on the job as well. But even with those wide receivers out, they've still got Andre Roberts. They've still got Joshua Palmer. And then they've got Jalen Guyton, who's been playing really well recently. And they've got Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly and Larry Roundtree. So with Justin Jackson. So I think they'll be able to run the football a little bit. And they've got that guy back there slinging it. He'll throw it to somebody. And I like the defense. I really like, even with Harris out, you've got Derwin James back there who's already got over 100 tackles. And they can get some pass rush when they need to dial it up.
Now, here's a team who had a terrible game, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco. And, I've been a big Jimmy G guy, and Jimmy G played like crap on Sunday. I mean, you can't throw as bad as interceptions as he did. So they're 6-6. You're chasing Arizona. You're chasing the Rams. I mean, I think I must have skipped through the Rams. I must have missed them already. But what do you think about San Francisco? Have they had their last gasp?
That was a horrible loss. Losing to at the time, 3-8 Seahawks team, which was basically in the coffin with the nail sticking out of it, getting ready to be hammered in. Horrible, horrible performance from a San Francisco team that has also been up and down. We've seen them, show up one week and look great like they did against the Rams that week, and then, have another good game and then just fall apart against the Seahawks. I feel like this game might be too much to overcome. And I thought this was just a horrible loss for the Niners, not only moving forward, but also mentally as they're trying to hang on in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, because the other thing is, and I think they trust Jimmy G to a point, but when they saw, I don't care if you're a teammate of his, you see them go out and get their quote unquote quarterback of the future. Um, you have to think that the coaching staff doesn't have full faith in him. So when he plays like that, you got to have a little doubt in him yourself. You know what I mean? Is the no one likes like it's very important that the quarterback is trusted by everybody from the coaching staff, from the GM down on down.
I agree. But where was that running game this week?
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
Elijah Mitchell carried 22 times for 60 yards. That's a 3-yard average. Everything they do on offense is predicated off the run game.
Right. And Shanahan's supposed to be the genius at drawing up a run game.
Right. And let's be honest, the Seahawks haven't been that great stopping the run this year. So the fact that they couldn't really run the ball like they usually do, and Jimmy Garoppolo still threw for 300 yards. I know the 2 interceptions were bad, but, I think they've got to be able to run the ball, and not being able to do that is not good look for them. And I think finally all these injuries they've had in the backfield are starting to catch up with them, because it was pretty much Elijah Mitchell or bust. And it just wasn't Elijah's day.
No. I had skipped over the Rams, who were at 9. Big game against Arizona on Sunday. They got off to that fast start. They who'd they beat this week?
They beat the Jaguars.
Yeah. Okay. So they got well against the Jaguars. So that's no big deal. But they still have to prove against a big team, a good team, that all these moves they made to make them, be the home team in the Super Bowl, the real home team in the Super Bowl, will come through for them. And this is going to be a big test for them.
Yeah, this is a huge game. And now they have the week off. They're on a bye, but they come back from the bye and play probably their most important game of the season. So we'll see what happens. I think this is a lot of pressure on the whole team, a lot of pressure on the coach, a lot of pressure on the first-year quarterback, Matt Stafford, who really – has never taken a team deep in the playoffs, and he's expected to win the Super Bowl this year. So there's a lot of pressure on that guy, and there's a lot of pressure on this whole team. The good news is they do have a lot of veterans on offense and defense that should hopefully be able to take some of the pressure off Matthew Stafford's shoulders. But they've got to win this Cardinals game, I feel like, to not mainly to stay alive. I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs, I think, but just from a mentality standpoint, I feel like this is a big game for them to get over the hump.
Well, let's face facts too. It's like, the Rams in San Francisco were kind of the Arizona Cardinals were the team on the bubble behind those two teams the last few years. So now to prove themselves, someone's taking away your crown. It's kind of like, what the Patriots went through last year when Buffalo finally jumped over them. You don't want to see Arizona just have an easy run to taking away that West crown that was yours. It's kind of a pride thing, too. You want to see them come out and fight hard for that. Because you don't want to, if at all possible, you'd like to see, they'd be able to steal back your Western division, which is going to be hard, but, not impossible. If the Cardinals finally hit or hit some hard times. 15th is the Steelers, who I think, no matter what, they always play tough against Baltimore. I'm not going to overrate that game. As we said, it could have gone either way with that 2-point conversion. They're 6-5-1. I don't know. I don't really consider them to be a big threat. Although, we talk about Mike Tomlin. He knows how to get a team in the playoffs usually.
Well, yeah, and everybody was writing them off after the last 2 weeks, especially after that ass kicking they took against the Bengals, 41-10. Everybody's like, "Oh, the Steelers are done. Big Ben is done. Tomlin's going to have his first losing season." And then what do? They come out and beat the Ravens. So they're not giving up, and I think this is a big game for them this week. They play at the Vikings. At 8:20 at the night game on the 9th. So this is a huge game for them. The Vikings are fighting for their lives, and potentially this could be a season over game if the Vikings lose. So the Steelers are going to get all they can handle from Zimmer and the boys. But I think this is still a winnable game for the Steelers, and I think they can keep their season alive with a victory against the Vikings.
Well, season over. It could be Mike Zimmer's time over as the coach of the Vikings if he was to lose to the Steelers, because that Lions loss was huge on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, that was crippling. And if they lose this game, I think he may be fired before the end of the season.
16th is the Washington football team, who with Tyler Hinkie, Hinkie, whatever you want to call him. The guy is somebody who's Heineke, whatever. They win.
I'm glad you mentioned them because I wanted to get your take on this guy. I mean, he was essentially billed as a stopgap, but now Fitzpatrick, we've learned, is not coming back. He's having an additional surgery on that hip. He's probably not going to come back next year. I don't know what the contract situation is. I've got to look at it to see what they're on the hook for with Fitzpatrick next year. But I kind of feel like over the last, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, where they've won 4 in a row against some pretty decent competition, I feel like this guy's at least earned a chance to be their starter for next year.
Yeah. If not him, who? I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
He's got obviously the team has grown to love him and follow him. I mean, that's number one. The coaching staff loves him. I don't see anybody out there who you're going to bring in outside of Deshaun Watson. Who would you bring in here that would guarantee you to have a top flight quarterback? Who's going to bring in?
Well, who's going to do better than him? He's completing 70% of his passes. He's thrown for 3,000 yards. He's got 18 touchdowns. I think he's performed pretty well.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know, and he's having a good year. But you and I both have seen quarterbacks have one good year and get their contract, and all of a sudden, the next year they're not so much. So, but, and this is my crucial but here. Outside of, like I said, Deshaun Watson, who, if his legal stuff goes away, he's a sure thing as a performer. I mean, he's one of the best, most talented quarterbacks out there. But outside of him, and I mean, this guy's worth a chance to give him a second chance. And I know in Ron Rivera, he's behind the kid 100%. So I think he will be the quarterback going forward for the near future, at least for Washington. It'll be his game. It'll be his team to lose, or his job to lose, I should say.
Well, they're not going to get Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson still has a no-trade clause in his contract, and he says basically he wants to go to Miami and Miami only. Well, Miami, I don't know if he's going to want him anymore the way that Tua's played.
And that's our next team. The 7.
Yeah, why would you want to get rid of Tua, who's been playing phenomenally and completing 80% of his passes over the last 3 weeks, and take a guy who may be suspended for the entire season? So,
and the other thing about Tua, and I'm not taking anything away from his success, but I mean, he has 2 wide receivers who he worked with through college. He's got Gesicki. He's got that team playing well. I mean, why would you go away from Tua now? He's shown you so much in this winning streak that there's no reason to believe that he's not going to be your quarterback going forward.
Well, yeah, and maybe get him some more weapons. I mean, Jalen Waddle is a great player. Gesicki, you think he didn't play at Alabama?
No. It didn't. I didn't know who didn't. That was, I think, the wide receiver.
Jalen Waddle. Yeah, Jalen Waddle played at Alabama, but other than Jalen Waddle and the tight end, who's a real threat on this team? I mean, I don't really like any of their other skill players. So get this guy another wideout, get him a couple of running backs that can actually do something. I mean, Myles Gaskin is their leading running back, and he averages 3 yards a carry and is rushed for 500 yards. So get somebody in here that can help Tua out. And then, then talk to me about his performance. I think he's done pretty good considering who he's got around him.
I wouldn't go away from him. I think he's good. I think he's shown he can be a good NFL quarterback, and they're hard to find. And
especially with all this stuff around him. They were getting ready to, get rid of Tua and move on from him ever since that week where the trade deadline expired and he realized he wasn't getting shipped out, he's looked like magic. And as Andy Bradford just said, Gaskin sucks. And I'm sorry that you got screwed, Bradford, but I could have told you if you were counting on Gaskin that you were going to get screwed because he blows. They have no good running backs. Phillip Lindsay's probably their best running back. He's been on the team for all of 2 weeks, and he's only gotten, 12 carries? They need to get some help if they want to start judging Tua and start, putting blame on him. They better get him some damn options to throw to and to hand the ball off to.
I just think he's earned his right to stay there and be the guy to take this team over. And I like the fact that the coach got them playing better too. Flores, maybe get him off the hot seat because he's one guy from the Belichick tree that seems to have a little bit of a clue of how to put a team together. The last couple we'll go over really quickly. Vegas, who of course has been a team that has overcome a lot. The coach, the tragedy with the wide receiver, and they're 6-6. Do they have enough left to make a push?
I don't think so. They got to play at the Chiefs this weekend. If they could essentially win that game, I guess you could say they've got a good shot, but I don't think they're going to. I think the Chiefs are going to take care of business. And then they've got to play. I think, they've got 3 division games left with the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. So not the easiest schedule. And let's be honest, they've got some turmoil going on. Some people are wanting to get rid of the quarterback, who they don't know who the coach is going to be next year. Not sold on the Raiders.
Right. And the last two will do the Broncos and the Browns. The Broncos, coming into the year, we knew the problem. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater having him at 6-6 right now, mid-season, or going into the last part of the season. I don't think he'd ask for more than that. And that is what they are right now. They don't have a real quarterback to take them over the hump, and I'm still not a Vic Fangio guy. And then the Browns, I think they really blew it when they kept riding Baker when he was injured mid-season. They should have given him a few weeks off, see if they could get that left shoulder rehabbed and back up. And now they're against a wall, and I don't think they have enough to get them home with it.
Well, luckily they do have the bye. So they've got the bye. If they can come back from the bye a little bit healthy and potentially beat the Ravens, they played the Ravens pretty tough last time they played a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. So, if they can come back from the bye, be a little bit healthier, have Baker be able to, throw the football a little bit more, they're not dead. They're not dead to me. So I'm not selling the Browns yet as much as I'm selling the Raiders. I feel like the Browns have still got a chance. And I agree with what you just said. I think Teddy Bridgewater's done a phenomenal job, especially having Vic being his damn coach.
Yep. All right. Well, we got to. We're up against the end of the hour, but we want to get your picks of the week. What do we got with the no doubt picks of the week?
Yes, I'm going to do the right picks this week because remember last week I picked the wrong games. We are talking about week 14, correct?
Yes.
Tomorrow night is Steelers Vikings.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure. I'm going to go ahead and take the Chiefs over the Raiders, as we just talked about. We were discussing that game at length. I think the Chiefs are going to win that game. I think they're going in the right direction. They've won 5 straight. Defense is playing better. Pat Mahomes looks like Pat Mahomes. I just feel like they're ready to push towards the playoffs. They've been in the last 2 Super Bowls. I feel like they've got a chance to make a third. I like the Chiefs against the Raiders. And then going forward, I'm looking at this 49ers Bengals game. And that's kind of a pick 'em game, 6-6 team versus 7-5 team. But what I saw last week from the Niners being unable to run the football, I feel like if the Bengals can just not give the football to the 49ers, I think they can win. So I'm going with the Bengals. They've been a little up and down, but I feel like they can win this week against the Niners.
All right. Big announcement for Sunday, man coverage. For all you Notre Dame guys out there, all you Subway alumni, we have a former, or you and Rico have a former Notre Dame quarterback coming in and a perfect time for him to be coming in and talking to you guys to go into the Brian Kelly migration south for the winter. I guess he wants to go south for the winter. I mean, he's already trying to adopt you're a Southerner. That accent had to drive you crazy.
Wow, that was just.
Well, you're Ohio. Now you're down south.
Yeah, but I grew up down here. My family's originally from Ohio, but we moved down to Tennessee when I was like 4. I lived here till I was 18. Then I moved back to Ohio, and now I'm back. So I've lived in both places, but I don't ever fake my accent unless I'm making fun of somebody. I just thought that was horrible, and I feel like he kind of insulted the fans at that basketball game by the way he did that. And just looking at their faces as they were staring at him, it looked to me like they thought the same thing I did. But I'm excited to talk to Malik. I've always liked him. He's from Ohio. He played at Archbishop Alter High School in Dayton, and is a really cool dude. He works for CBS now and calls some college games and works for Overtime Sports, being a broadcaster. And played quarterback for Notre Dame and Florida. So we can talk to him about the Notre Dame coaching situation, Brian Kelly, his thoughts on him. Obviously, he didn't hold back when he was talking to our boy Lance Meadow, ripping on Brian Kelly. So we're going to get to hear about that. And also, I want to hear his thoughts about the Florida coaching hire and what he thinks about Coach Napier taking over.
Definitely. And I'll tell you, well, as an outsider looking in, I mean, a Notre Dame fan, I've always said that Kelly drives these quarterbacks crazy. I mean, only Tommy Rees and Ian Book made it anywhere with him. Every good quarterback he chased out of town. So, I mean, that's one of the things for you people down in Louisiana. And, I like LSU. I used to love LSU when Burt Jones was there. But, he's no picnic for a quarterback. And if you're trying to get a good quarterback to go down to LSU, one of my biggest quandaries was the tough sell that Notre Dame was for great quarterbacks. And
he already ran off the quarterback. Max Johnson hit the portal today, who was the LSU Tigers starter. And Brad Johnson, the Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, his son, he hit the portal today and left. He's gone. And he took his younger brother, who had committed to LSU. He was one of the top tight ends in the country. He had already committed to LSU and, solidified his recruitment under Coach Orgeron. He decommitted yesterday. So both of the Johnsons are out.
I'm not saying that I'm right, but if you connect enough of the dots, it's got to come up as he's got a bad rap with quarterbacks.
Well, we'll see. We're going to get to talk to one of them on Sunday, and I can't wait to hear what he's got to say about Brian Kelly. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say about Marcus Freeman, the new era in Notre Dame football. And also, like I said, I want to get his thoughts on Florida as well and what the hell he thought happened with Coach Mullen.
All right, people, thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next week to talk more NFL football. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the Vikings-Pittsburgh tomorrow night as we see two teams desperately trying to hang on. Giants, I don't know, man. I'm just not looking forward to the Giants this weekend. But I got to stick with my
see Jake Fromm's mom.
Exactly. I'll tell you what. Put the game on the background. I'll listen. Just put the picture of her on the screen. I'm fine.
There you go.
That's all I need. Cue up the band.
All right.